Imagine a wedding day. You've seen dozens of couples all dressed up, celebrating together, but it's one single huge ceremony.
Yeah, it's quite an image. Joyful on the surface, maybe.
Right, but also deeply bittersweet. We're talking about group weddings happening in Afghanistan.
And they're happening really as a direct result of the country's economic collapse, a symptom of something much bigger.
Exactly. And that's what we're diving into today, the severe humanitarian crisis gripping Afghanistan under Taliban rule.
A crisis that's been massively amplified by, well, recent and pretty significant cuts in U.S. and international aid.
Our source for this is a recent on-the-ground investigation. Gives a really candid look.
Absolutely. Raw testimonies from people living through it, plus analysis from experts tracking the situation closely.
So our mission today is to pull out the key insights from this investigation. We want to help you understand the direct, devastating impact these aid cuts are having on ordinary Afghans.
And also to explore the different viewpoints, the arguments around these decisions, because they are complex.
And just shed light on the incredibly tough realities people face there every single day. Let's get into it.
Okay, so first, the context. The Taliban. We know they consolidated power after the U.S. and allies left in 2021.
But this investigation really underscores how entrenched they are now. Sources on the ground saying, unequivocally, they are here to stay.
Right, no ambiguity there.
And with that U.S. withdrawal, the investigation shows Afghanistan's economy just cratered. It completely imploded.
And it's not just hitting one group. The financial hardship is universal. Everyone is affected.
It's so bad it's changing fundamental social things, like these group weddings we mentioned.
The source calls them a cost-cutting exercise.
Yeah, because normally Afghan weddings are, well, very big, very expensive, huge celebrations.
So when you see 18 couples getting married together, it just screams economic hardship. Tradition takes a back seat to survival.
That image really sticks with you. It makes you ask how things get this bad.
And a huge part of the answer lies in this dramatic shift in international aid.
The U.S. departure in 2021 was, well, chaotic. But even after that, the U.S. was still a major humanitarian donor.
Yeah, at one point responsible for almost half Afghanistan's humanitarian aid. Even recently, aid was around, what, $2 to $2.5 billion?
But things changed drastically. The investigation points to a really pivotal moment earlier this year.
This is crucial. The Trump administration decided to cut almost all U.S. aid to Afghanistan.
We're not talking small trims here. Over $1.7 billion in aid contracts just terminated.
And $500 million of that hadn't even been paid out yet. It was money allocated, ready to go.
So specific programs, health clinics, food aid, their funding just vanished overnight.
And it's not just the U.S. pulling back. The U.K., Germany, France, they've also cut their aid significantly. It's a broader trend.
The impact, as you'd expect, is devastating, especially in rural areas.
Exactly. These are the places where the 20 years of war hit hardest. Foreign aid wasn't just helpful there. The source says it was critical, just for basic survival.
Look at the healthcare crisis. The source found over 200 clinics have closed because of U.S. aid cuts.
200. That impacts millions of people.
Yeah, imagine your local clinic, the one that until just a few months ago was funded by the U.S. government, suddenly just gone, locked up.
And these were places women gave birth, where kids got vaccines, basic essential care.
The consequences are just heartbreaking. The UN estimates an Afghan woman dies every 2 hours from pregnancy or childbirth.
Every 2 hours. It's one of the highest maternal mortality rates in the world.
And the investigation heard directly from communities. In one area, they said 7 people have died since this clinic closed.
Just in that one community. And there was that awful story of a woman who died in childbirth because there was nowhere for her to give birth.
Her neighbors thought she would have survived if the midwife support funded by the U.S. had still been there.
It's horrifying. Just puts the human cost in stark relief.
So what are people doing now? Where do they go?
Well, their only option is to travel hours, sometimes days, to public hospitals.
Which must be completely overwhelmed.
Exactly. Overcrowded. And now they often lack the doctors, the nurses, the essential drugs that were previously funded by, U.S. aid.
And it's not just healthcare, right?
Wow.
Malnutrition is soaring too.
Oh, absolutely. The report says 9.5 million people severely food insecure. That's a huge number.
And NGOs, the charities that used to distribute food, often with U.S. funding.
They're now turning away many people in desperate need of food. They just don't have the resources anymore.
The scale is hard to comprehend, but those individual stories, they really hit home. The investigation mentioned a young boy, Mohammed Omar.
Yes. A truly heartbreaking case. He was suffering from severe malnutrition and also meningitis.
His family was poor. They'd only just managed to get him to the hospital after traveling a long way.
And then, tragically, right there while the journalists were interviewing, he stopped breathing. He died.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And look, the report is careful. He had multiple serious illnesses. You can't pin it on one single thing. But it emphasizes that these aid cuts have dealt a devastating blow here. They've massively worsened an already desperate situation.
Were there other moments like that in the investigation, things that really stuck with you?
Just the sheer scale of need, you know? Everywhere the investigators went, people desperate for food, for medicine, and the aid workers just unable to help everyone, that constant sense of impossible choices for families.
It's an almost unimaginable level of suffering. But, okay, we need to understand the arguments from the other side, too. Why were these cuts made?
Right. The investigation speaks to people like Congressman Tim Burchett. He's been wanting to cancel aid to Afghanistan for a while.
What's his main justification?
His big claim is that $5 billion U.S. taxpayer dollars have gone directly to the ruling Taliban, which the U.S. designates a terrorist group.
$5 billion. That sounds enormous. Is that accurate?
Well, the investigation points out the U.S. government's own watchdog estimated it was more like $11 million, possibly diverted or taxed by the Taliban, not $5 billion going directly to them. A huge difference in scale and nature.
Was he challenged on that number? Using potentially misleading figures?
He was. According to the source, he responded very directly, saying something like, "No, ma'am, I'm not intentionally misleading. $11 million is still a whole lot of money."
Okay.
And then he added, "If one penny going to the Taliban, they'll hate us for free." So his point is, any amount potentially reaching them is unacceptable.
And his core argument is really about focusing resources domestically, right?
Exactly. He says, we have Americans in the same position. We have Americans that are having trouble with childbirth. We have Americans going hunger, and you want us to borrow money and send it overseas. That's his perspective.
So when confronted with the impact, the millions of Afghans who are going to be affected, or seeing that baby die from malnutrition, what was his response?
He called it horrific, but said, "It's not due to my actions, ma'am." He denied any moral responsibility, even given the 20-year U.S. involvement there.
He said, "No, ma'am, my responsibility is to my own country, and I'm my district."
Yeah. It really highlights this clash between, domestic political arguments and the immediate humanitarian consequences abroad.
Especially after such a long and complex history of involvement?
Precisely. So with the U.S. and others pulling back aid, the fate of Afghans is increasingly in the hands of the Taliban government.
And they claim they can run the country without foreign aid.
That's what they say. But the investigation found they rule with an iron fist. They denied interview requests for the report.
And there's intense control, surveillance?
Very much so. Critical speech is incredibly difficult. The source describes minders stepping in immediately if someone started speaking freely to the journalists.
Cutting conversations off.
Abruptly. And journalists themselves face huge hurdles. They're tracked by the GDI, the Taliban's intelligence agency.
And there's that directive about not taking photos or videos of living beings.
Yeah, which makes visual reporting, documenting reality really, really difficult.
This affects everyone, obviously. But the investigation highlights the particularly devastating impact on women and girls.
Absolutely. The Taliban is accused of carrying out gender apartheid. That's a strong term. But it reflects the systemic stripping away of rights.
Things like leaving the house without a male relative, going to school.
The basic freedoms, gone. And their lives are at risk now from both sides. In a way, the funding cuts hitting healthcare and the strict Taliban laws.
Like the rule that they can't travel alone even when they have urgent medical needs.
Exactly. Think about that woman who died in childbirth. Even if there was a hospital further away, could she even get there?
And the education crisis.
Mm-hmm.
It's just gut-wrenching. Girls over 12 not allowing to attend school in a modern sense.
Right. And those secret schools that USAID used to fund, offering some hope?
That funding's gone too?
Completely dried up, according to the source. So the main option left for many girls is madrasas.
Religious schools.
Yes, focused on a very strict interpretation of Islamic rules and Islamic principles.
The investigation spoke to some young girls, didn't it, about their dreams?
It did. One wanted to be a surgeon, another a translator, bright girls with ambitions.
But when asked about their future in Afghanistan,
they said things like, "Abroad, I guess, there's no options here." Just a real sense of hopelessness about their prospects inside the country.
And they feel abandoned by the U.S.
One girl used that exact phrase, kind of, abandoned. It's a powerful sentiment.
There's also a concern mentioned, isn't there?
Yep.
That these girls in the madrasas,
Yes, that they are essentially being brainwashed into the Taliban's ideology, that the Taliban is weaponizing education here to shape the next generation according to their worldview.
so you have this generation of young Afghan girls, bright, full of potential,
Living under a regime that wants to largely erase them from all forms of public life.
and feeling like the world, especially those who once promised support, has just turned away.
It's a profound tragedy playing out.
So, tying this all together, what are the main takeaways from this deep dive?
Well, first, the sheer scale of the humanitarian crisis is shocking. It's not an exaggeration to say it's catastrophic.
Second, the specific, very direct impact of these recent aid cuts, especially from the U.S. clinics closing, food aid drying up, real life and death consequences.
And third, the complexity of it all. The justifications offered for the cuts versus the undeniable human cost and the harsh reality of life under the Taliban now.
It really shows how high-level policy decisions, sometimes made continents away, translate into immediate suffering on the ground.
Absolutely. And ultimately, the fate of millions of Afghans is now largely in the hands of the Taliban government amid this immense suffering.
Which leaves us, and you the listener, with a really difficult thought to wrestle with.
Given the decades of international involvement, the messy withdrawal, what is the nature of global responsibility to people facing crises like this?
Especially when political decisions like cutting aid have such immediate, devastating human consequences. Where does accountability truly lie?